I was about 7 years old, and it was a dark, cold winter night. My father and I had just finished saying goodbye to our family members. It was Christmas Eve, and my aunt and uncle had just went home from a visit, a simple family ritual done every year on Christmas time. Usually, before I knew it, I had kicked off my winter boots and gone to bed. Mom and Dad came into my room and spoke with soft words and told me good night. I couldn't wait for Christmas. It was my most favorite holiday of the year. The presents, the family dinner, everything just seemed so perfect when it's the holiday season. Well, at this point, I couldn't go to bed thinking of Christmas and wondering what could possibly be under the tree. But inevitably, my eyelids grew heavier, and the light glow from the moon reflected off the snow that was too soothing, and I was soon asleep. All of a sudden, I was awake, thinking it was Christmas morning. I was overjoyed to go open my presents, but I heard something odd, and my parents were usually up making breakfast. I'm a pretty heavy sleeper. I heard as though it was a mumbling sound. Not a, oh my God, it's a monster, crap your pants kind of sound, but just enough so that I could hear it. Added on to the strange noise I also heard big thumping footsteps. We have wooden floors, so those of you who also do, you know what I'm talking about. Which was strange because even my father didn't make thumps that loud when he walked. So, the curious, carefree child that I was, I went to investigate the noises. I checked upstairs, in my parents' room, the bathrooms, everywhere, but I found nothing. So, that left two places, the living room and the kitchen. When I stepped into the living room, I found the source of the mumbling. It was my mother and father, tied up in a rope with cloth around their mouth in front of the Christmas tree. All our presents arrayed there. Suddenly, I went into shock. My parents weren't ones to play pranks on me. Being scared, I rushed to the kitchen to fetch a knife to cut the ropes. All of a sudden, I heard a noise coming from the living room. It was the thumping again. I hurried back out there. Next to my parents was a tall man in a black sort of robe, the cloth thin around him. He had his hood up, and he wore heavy boots that seemed to be steel-toed. The most defining characteristic this mysterious man had was the mask he wore. The mask was black. It had huge holes for the eyes, rimmed with metal. There was a long plastic-looking string that was tied in a tight knot to keep the mask on. But the thing I remember most was the horrifying black beak on that mask. It curved downward, almost like a hellish bird from a nightmare. Only this was real life. I was frozen in shock, standing there as this hellbird stared blankly at me, as though eating the very soul from my body. I did nothing. Seconds felt like hours, until finally the Birdman spoke in a very light, formal, yet wisp-like voice, also revealing that he was a man, whether it really was a man or not. "I am the bringer of Oblivion." What "What do you plan on doing, you bastard?" I asked. He simply snickered. Behind him, I noticed he had a bag. He reached into it and pulled out a gasoline tank. Started dousing my parents with the gas. I went to attack him, but he punched me in the stomach and I fell to the ground. Felt like he might have broken some of my ribs. Now, no more of that. I expected that you would sit and behave yourself like a good boy. He started covering the tree and the presents with gas, and then he threw the tank down. It spilled gasoline everywhere. He grabbed me by the shoulder and threw me by the front door. "Merry Christmas," he said, dropping an enclosed envelope and a mask identical to his. He took out a big Zippo lighter and ignited the gasoline. He then threw the lighter to my parents, instantly engulfing them and everything in flames. He jumped out the window and ran into the dark woods behind our house. I watched as they screamed in agony under the cloths, and their skins started to melt away and char. I went to help them, but the house and everything was just engulfed in flames. The last words I ever heard from my father were, Just run, son. Go and run as fast as you can." At least that's what I could make out from him. I went to run out of the house, knowing sadly and contemplating on whether to leave or not. I reached for the door and my foot stubbed against something. It was the mask and the letter. For some reason, I took them with me. When I finally got the chance to open that letter, my parents were long gone. All of my happiness was crushed. The letter read as follows: "From the bringers of Oblivion. I knew you would keep this. Hello. If you are reading this, then that means you're very lucky. I am the bringer of Oblivion, and this is your letter of Oblivion. With this letter was a mask I left with you as well. More importantly, I left you with something more than that. Anger. Don't cry, because it will do you no good whatsoever. I've left you with a task and a new life you can choose to lead. Take this mask, keep these words in your head, because I know they will be burned into your memory whether you like it or not. When you are older, maybe even now, depending on when you are reading this, you can take this mask and do the deed I had done to you and your family to another. You can take that rage out on them. Don't worry. It feels good, I know. Burn the house and leave a letter and a mask identifying you to their youngest. Burn the rest of them. I know you can do this. I feel the rage inside you. It has consumed you, so release it. Do this, my child, and spread Oblivion to wherever you may find it suitable." At the time I read this, I had stayed at a foster home for God knows how many years, but he was right about the rage. It controlled my body, and sometimes I would think to myself, what would have happened if the things that had been done that night had not occurred? But there's no way I can become him, I would think to myself. I'm 18 now, and the rage and the day and the letter are still stuck inside my head. It's all burned there, even as I'm dropping his mask and his letter at the feet of a very lucky 5-year-old girl who just happened to be the youngest of her family of 4. You're still here. Thanks for stopping by. Dr. Plague here. Always a pleasure to see all my new and old viewers coming by for another one of my spooky tales. If you'd like to support the show, you can always take part in one of our channel offers through Fume or Aura, or you can just click on another video when they come up. I'd really appreciate it. For our newer viewers, we also have lots of playlists and other things if you'd like to get caught up. I know some of my series have been going on for quite a while. If you'd like to get my latest book, there's a link down below that'll take you to my Amazon page. Towesey Homestead just came out, so if that's something you'd like to get your hands on, go ahead and have a look down there. If you'd like a signed copy, you can go ahead and email me from my email address on the site, and I'll get with you about shipping information and ship you a signed copy. If you'd like to support the channel in a more monetary fashion, we also have membership through YouTube, and we've got a Patreon that you can get the information for in the description. We have lots of tiers and everything to suit your needs. Patrons that support on the $10 tier, that's our Ghostly Reader tier, get a book anytime I write one, signed and on their doorstep. As you may have noticed, there's a list of patrons and members on the screen, and I'd like to personally thank every one of them for taking a hand in the future of this channel. Well, that's enough for tonight. Dr. Plague, signing off. Have a wonderful evening.